I can't sleep when I lay in bed. Too much thinking in my head. I don't know what to do anymore. But come on now, tell me the score. Is there anything I can do to get out of these tragic blues? I'm a victim of circumstance. I never really had a chance. I lay down and stare at my feet. You know the world has got me beat.
Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today we're going to be talking about the information and support services that are available to the Russian-speaking community. Today I have here on my show Tatiana Shevchenko. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Tatiana, I just want to kind of just talk to you a little bit about the services that's provided to the Russian-speaking community here in Sacramento. And I know you guys probably go beyond Sacramento, but we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about the Russian and Ukrainian-speaking population here in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. So tell me, what is the Russian-speaking population here in Sacramento?
Probably many people who live in Sacramento ask this question because they can see Russian-speaking people everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good to remember that there was several big major waves of immigration from Russia and Soviet Union to America and to Sacramento as well. But the major wave happened in late 1980s. Okay. When lots of people had opportunity to come to United States with refugee status as religious refugees. So that's how the population of Russian-speaking community in Sacramento started to grow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and also it's also very important to remember that because this wave started from the Soviet Union, and in the Soviet Union it was 15 different republics.
Wow.
And so people who lived there, it was over 180 nationalities who spoke 130 different languages.
Wow.
It means that they are not all Russians.
Okay.
And they are not all Slavics.
Okay. Wow.
But they can carry whatever different nationalities, but for the feature they all have, they can speak Russian more or less fluently.
Wow.
That is why they're not Russians, not Slavics, they're Russian speaking. That's more correct.
Okay. That's
way to address them. Yeah.
Yes, that's interesting because there is a difference between someone that is born into the Russian culture opposed to someone that just speak Russian. Like myself, if I knew the language, I would be Russian or Ukrainian speaking, but I wouldn't be necessarily classified as a Russian or Ukrainian.
Definitely, because the Russian is nationality, Ukrainian is nationality, and as I said, it was 180 different nationalities in Soviet Union.
Wow. So, you know, why did the Russian-speaking population move or migrate over here to America?
To America, definitely, all immigrants come to America to see some opportunities. Okay. For themselves and for their children. Yeah. But if we talk about Sacramento and the latest wave of immigration, as I said, religious refugees, right? So that's interesting because when you live in a different country and you don't know much about America, and if you get permission to come, basically you don't know, it's no matter what city you're coming, because that does not make any difference. Yeah. But the interesting thing that in West Sacramento specifically, it was a Christian radio station.
Oh.
And the people in the former Soviet Union, Christian people, they listened to the programs. Okay. So at least they knew their voice.
Yeah.
And they knew the name. Yeah. So, and when they had a question where to come, definitely people want to come at least where they know a little bit.
Okay.
So when they come here, and it was also Russian-speaking Baptist church, composed of older immigrants, and those older immigrants, we call them older immigrants. It does not mean they're old.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
mature.
Yeah. So they really helped newcomers back then, and that is why the community grows so fast because, again, now we are settling here, and now we invited our friends and families here.
Yeah.
That's why since 1980 till now, the community grows so fast. From 10,000, now it's over 100,000 Russian-speaking people in Sacramento area.
Wow.
It's a large community.
That's a huge number. Mm-hmm. Wow. So tell me, what is the process of being over there in Russia or Ukrainian? What is the process to get the culture or someone over here to Sacramento? Is there a process? You have to fill out paperwork? Like, what is the process?
Yeah, definitely. Like all immigrants, legal immigrants, they have to fill out paperwork and they have to wait a long time.
Okay.
And if first people in the late 80s start coming as refugees, it does not mean that everybody here, like all Russian-speaking immigrants, are refugees, because refugee is a very special status. You really had to suffer persecution or some discrimination in your country. But while you're here, you can invite your relatives. You can get married, right?
Yeah.
Invite your spouses.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can invite. And also the people. Lots of people came here looking for a job.
Yeah.
And lots of people came here because they won a green card.
Oh, okay.
You know, like United States has this diversity lottery visa. A lottery every year, and lots of people win green card and come here, but by not knowing anybody. So I met lots of people like this.
Oh, wow.
Who didn't have relatives, didn't have friends, but they came to Sacramento with green cards because they heard it's a large Russian-speaking community here.
Wow. So the transition, let's talk a little bit about the transition. So, because I know coming from one country to another country, I know that has to be somewhat of a challenge, you know. So let's talk about, you know, the Russian-speaking community or the Russian culture coming from Russia or Ukrainian here to Sacramento. How is that a challenge for them, you know, opposed to language, customs, and just the surroundings in itself?
Yeah, and we can talk about mental health in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah, and immigration is a big event, and it is traumatic event for anybody, not just for Russian-speaking people.
Yeah.
For any person, immigration itself is very traumatic because you leave something behind. It's like a death, right? You partially die, your identity dies, and you come to a new environment and you have to restructure yourself. You have to start working on a new you and learn new skills like language, like reading people's faces. We take it for granted, right?
Yeah.
You take it for granted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but newcomers, they always learn all these basic skills that children learn, you know, from their birth.
Yeah.
And imagine if you are 30 years old, 40 years old, 50, 60, you have to learn tons of new skills.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult.
Yeah.
And also you can miss your life there. You don't understand what's the new rules here. You don't understand anything, basically. In your middle age or old age, you are in a position of a little child, starting learning everything again. And all your baggage, all your knowledge, it's not used here, right?
Yeah.
Because even if you can contribute to society, but language, if you don't learn the language, you cannot even communicate what you know, what you can offer. So it's very difficult. And also, what I see from my practice, people who had, you know, life in Soviet Union and post-Soviet countries, it was very difficult, and it's kind of challenging. And so we can talk about trauma long before people come here. So people were traumatized big time in their lives there. And immigration is additional trauma. And so you can imagine what happened with the mental health. If you're already traumatized, you already may exhibit some symptoms or some like things going on, and now it's additional pressure, and lots of people experience many mental health problems here. But they don't address it.
And why is that? Why do you think that you know, the people, you know, in you guys' community don't address the mental health issues that's, you know, that's going on?
First of all, I think because people don't recognize these symptoms because they don't know. you see, I always say information is a power, knowledge is a power.
Yes.
If you don't know what's going on, what to look for,
Yes.
how would you know you have a problem?
Yeah.
Especially mental health problems, psychological problems.
Mm-hmm.
You try to cope. I mean, it's a very usually everyday issue. Everybody experiences that, right? If
Yeah.
you're under big stress, you start coping with this.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Or you don't necessarily diagnose yourself, because
Yeah.
to diagnose yourself, you have to have at least some knowledge
Yeah.
of what's going on. And in the Soviet Union, again, in the post-Soviet countries, it was no education about mental health.
Yeah.
And basically it was no mental health.
Yeah.
It was psychiatric care,
Yeah.
which was very different
Yeah.
from mental health system in America.
Yeah.
And people, there is a large, lots of fear, because psychiatric care again, in Soviet Union, it was more like a negative
Yeah.
than positive approach, because in Soviet Union, being totalitarian government, the government used psychiatrists not only to treat mental health problems, but also to treat people who think differently.
Oh, wow.
That's a very important thing to remember when our mental health specialists communicate with Russian-speaking clients. It's always good to remember that their approach to mental health may be totally negative.
Yeah.
And not because they are bad people, but because they had bad experience.
Yeah.
That is why people, even if they feel something wrong with them, they're afraid.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they don't want to be labeled, they don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
In Soviet Union, schizophrenia was the most often diagnosed, most common diagnosis, especially for people who didn't agree with the government.
Yeah.
They were healthy people, but they just dare to be different,
Yeah.
to think differently.
Yeah.
And schizophrenia was their diagnosis.
Wow.
And that is why when people come here, they really try to stay away from any diagnosis, because many of them don't know any other diagnosis but schizophrenia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how illiterate community is. And I think first what they need education about what mental health is.
Yes, absolutely. So I know here in America, a lot of different cultures tend not to reach out and get the support and the services that they actually need because of the stigma that's attached to mental health. Do you think that the stigma that's attached to mental health, do you think that play a role also in the reason why some of the Russian-speaking community don't reach out as well?
It does too, definitely, because if people don't understand what's going on with them, and their family members and friends don't understand what's going on with their loved one also, there is lots of stories, lots of myth, right?
Yes.
And definitely, if a person has a religious background, it can be like things like, oh, he's possessed or he's a sinner, right?
Exactly.
That's kind of stigmatization.
Yeah.
If the person does not have religious background, it can be other. The person just crazy.
Yeah.
Who wants to be crazy?
Yeah,
definitely. And because community, I mean, we say over 100,000 people, but the community is still small.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
So if something going wrong in your family, with your child or with your loved ones, you really don't want to be viewed crazy or sinner, right? So you really want to stay, hide these issues as much as possible, or treat them yourself as much as possible.
Yeah. And I know that is somewhat an issue. You know, I have a few friends that are Ukrainian, and they, speak Russian and Ukrainian language. And I know, in their churches, sometimes one friend in general, now he's kind of going through some things. He deals with depression, and he's going through withdrawals from pain medication that he had been taking. And it was not that he was taking it just to take it to get enjoyment. He was taking it because he was going through some things medically. And I know that they tend to kind of hide what's going on with him because the stigma, because the reputation. And so today he reached out to for his sisters through a text message, and he forwarded it to me, kind of let me read it or whatever, because he wanted me to kind of pray about it. And so he was just really upfront about, what was going on with him. And I always encourage him to, be honest with his family. Let them know what's going on with you, because you need that support. But he would never really be totally honest with them, because he wanted to put up this image, and I kind of see that going on a lot in that particular community. So how do you think we could, or the people can address that? What's the best way to address that, to raise awareness about different mental health issues that's going on within the Russian-speaking community?
Education is the key.
Okay.
I think it would be good if, for example, the doctors, primary care doctors, would spend a little bit, maybe one more minute, and ask questions, trying to figure out the symptoms. Because you see, what also, I'll return to this question, but also have something to add. Interesting, like with older adults, especially, like people have lots of their physical symptoms. They know about their physical symptoms, but they don't know how to, look for their emotional symptoms, like psychological symptoms.
Exactly.
And when they go to the doctor, they always talk about their physical condition, and they don't even think the doctor needs to know that, oh, I cry a lot, or I have insomnia, or something like this that can help doctor to see, oh, maybe that's depression, or maybe this is anxiety, maybe this is something else. So people don't know. It means that doctors, it would be nice if they just ask, how is this, how that, how's your appetite, how's your sleep, how's your weight, and so on. So just kind of leading questions. That's one thing. And in terms of, same with mental health professionals, because what happens when people really feel something wrong with them and they ask for mental health help, they are so not educated about the system, how our system works here, at least in Sacramento. And they have different expectations. And they get very much frustrated because their expectations not met, right? And the mental health professionals, at least, they also can spend a few minutes to explain what to expect, what is my role, because again, in the Soviet Union it was not like a mental health system, it was psychiatric care. So many people in their head, they think if they go to mental health clinic and they see peer counselor talking to them, they think this peer counselor is a psychiatrist. Totally, unrelated roles, and they would be waiting, where is my medication prescribed? Why you don't treat me? Why you not that? So they, because here is so many roles and so many specialists, at least this has to be explained what to expect and how things work here. And also very important to teach family members and their clients themselves that they are also responsible for their lives. That's very important, because again, in their home countries, nobody talk about responsibility because you couldn't do anything. You just take what you get. But here you really have to be proactive, right? You have to ask questions, not be ashamed to ask questions, and sometimes challenge the doctor with medications, not to take it like, like, okay, this might, but we don't have this habit. It's a habit. We don't have it because in our country, whatever doctor prescribes, doctor is an authority, you take it. That's it, no question asked. So totally different, relationships.
And I definitely agree with you on that, because, one of my closest friends, as I stated earlier, I have two of them, but one of them is, we're like really close. I always find myself trying to encourage him to advocate for himself. And it's like, it really seems like he just takes the back seat on a lot of things. I know when he was actually going through a situation, because he was diagnosed with brain cancer, and and I had went to some of his doctor's appointments with him just to kind of be a support system for him. And just some of the things that the doctors was telling him, I really didn't agree with it. And so, and at the same time, I understood why the doctors communicated some of the information that they did to him, but I really didn't agree with a lot of it. And so he would just stand up there and just, And so I was like, no, I said, that's not what you really want, because on our way here, you were saying that you wanted to do this or that. And so, but when the doctors was giving him things that they felt he should do, he just kind of rolled with it. And I'm like, no, that's not really what he want. And then one doctor visit, me and a doctor was kind of going back and forth, because I already knew from previous conversation what he wanted. And one of the things he didn't want to do, he didn't want to quit his part-time job. And his part-time job, he was pretty much just, he would go there and go to sleep and wake up. He just needed to be there with the client. Well, the doctor felt like, no, you don't need to go there. You need to just work one job. I'm like, why do he need one job when he can go there, go to sleep, and go home and still make some money? And so, of course, he ended up, kind of taking my advice. And so he was able to work, without having any issues. But that's just another thing to add on what you're saying, because it seems like they don't really advocate for themselves like they should.
Yeah, and also interesting thing, sometimes when people start taking medications and then they don't feel right, they don't feel well, feel well by taking them, and they just stop taking them, which is even worse than it was before. So, and why they're doing this? Because they are not educated. Again, I had so many cases when people just was playing with this psychotropic medication, and I told them, you know what, it's not a painkiller, it's not a Tylenol. Really, you have to, I feel good, I don't want to take it. I said, no, that's not you feel good or bad, because that's very serious medication. And when I explained to them why they cannot stop by themselves, they really have to consult with the doctor first, and maybe the dosage should be changed, or maybe medication should be changed. You cannot just stop taking it. They were not educated. And again, it's not, I don't think it's difficult for a doctor or a nurse. Just take 1 minute and remind them, don't stop it, by yourself. Don't diagnose yourself. Don't choose medications for yourself, or a dosage, or the, how you take it 3 times a day, 2 times a day. Always ask. If you have questions, always call us and ask. Because again, we don't we don't like to advocate for ourselves, so we decide to make our own decisions. And sometimes our decisions not good.
Tell me, so in your opinion, do the youth and the older adult, do they face the same challenges when they come here to Sacramento?
No, they have different challenges. I would say, and youth have more challenges than older adults. Because, see, for older adults, again, if there is kind of more settled with all social support, social services. So many people get on SSI, supplemental security income. It means that they have medical, and they also kind of rely on the government, and so they kind of feel more comfortable, even not knowing the language. And the youth, they have to live here, right? So the language is the least thing they have to worry about, because every young person learns language very fast.
Yes, exactly.
But that's interesting, because you start living between two cultures, you have to find your identity. You came from your homeland with your family, it's your identity, but now you're in a different country and you want to be American. So you're not Russian anymore, you're not Ukrainian, even because you don't even know how to read or write. But you're not American, because you kind of feel that's my last name, it's not American, and my family is not American, who I am. That creates lots of problems for youth. Being between culture, so many create their own culture, like third culture. And also it contributes to lots of stress, even more stress than usual English-speaking Americans have, young Americans, and also it creates lots of mental health problems as well. But because the parents don't know the symptoms, because if they knew the symptoms, they probably would go first themselves to the doctor. But they don't go, so it means they don't know anything about mental health. So when they see their young, like teenagers, let's see, acting out, they think that's the influence of American society.
Exactly.
They don't think some symptoms could be manifesting mental health problem.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, exactly. And so they waste time. They don't go ask for help. But youth, what they do? They start what? self-medicate themselves, right? Because if you don't feel comfortable, you need to find a way out.
Yes.
And that is why lots of alcohol abuse, lots of drug use, and other things.
Yeah.
That's what we see now in the Russian-speaking community among lots of youth. Not everybody, but many have this this problem.
Yeah, yeah. I hope they don't see this program. But my friend that I was telling you about, and I'm not going to say the name, his brother-in-law, sister, husband, he is now he's an alcoholic pretty much. And it's really causing a lot of problems within the marriage. And my friend's sister, she was telling him that she don't really know how to deal with it. She don't even know how to help her husband. And she was telling him that he drinks in order to stay normal because he was dealing with, I guess, some other issues and stuff. So he just started drinking. And now it's to the point if he's not drinking, he gets the shakes, he's having withdrawal symptoms. So he started back to drinking even more in order to feel normal. And so, I just really try to encourage my friend to kind of tell him, things that he could tell his sister to kind of help that situation. But alcohol and drug definitely play a role in some of the youth when they come over here. And his sister, she deals with a lot of depression. And to me, she's a very attractive girl, but she doesn't think so because she got pimples and stuff in her face, bad acne. And that's really, really affecting her. She put on pounds and pounds of makeup in order to make herself look the way that society thinks she should look, and it's really affecting her, mentally, But and still she won't go and get no help. She won't go and talk to nobody. She just, a lot of times, just kind of lock herself in a room and just kind of deal with it on her own and stuff. And my friend, sometimes he'll come home and hear her crying, and that's how he know, okay, I need to go in here and talk to her. But I definitely agree that education and the resource that's available to the Russian-speaking community needs to be, they need to know that in a sense.
Yeah, they need to know that. And I had because I write lots of articles in Russian-speaking Russian newspaper. It's not speaking, it's reading. So I write lots of articles for Russian community. And it's interesting because once I had a whole series of articles about mental health, like talking about depression, talking about anxiety, talking about schizophrenia, talking about bipolar, like major, things. And lots of people start calling us.
Wow.
Yeah, and at least this way, they become aware and they say, oh, at least I'm not crazy. It's really happening to me. It's not my imagination. It's really happening. So what we did, we started referring them to mental health agencies. But another thing with immigrants, they might even understand they have a problem, and they might even agree to go to mental health specialist, but they don't know how to address their issues. There is another thing, they need to be coached.
Yes.
Not coached what to say, what to pretend, but how to express themselves in the right way. Even young people, I thought it's a problem for my age people and older people, but even young generation, they don't know how to verbalize their symptoms because they never learn it. They live in Russian language or Ukrainian language. It's a very emotional language. So when you ask us about problems, even if we speak English, we will tell you about our grandparents, about the home situation, about the weather, about some minor things before we go to the core. So and nobody has time to listen for 2 hours for all these speeches, right? So they need to be taught how to express themselves properly, how to do their speech in 1 minute, go right to the issue. Because it's very important. And I saw so many people, they really agreed to go to the doctor, but then they say, no, doctor didn't help me because they didn't understand what's going on with me. Because they didn't know how to present themselves, how to express their problem.
And that's when the younger generation comes in as a support system for the older generation, because I know sometimes I've seen the younger generation go to doctor's appointments and help the parents fill out paperwork or grandparents fill out paperwork. So I think that comes in handy when they don't understand a lot of things here in an American culture. And so if the youth is out there and they're getting, quote unquote, this training, Americanized training, it could be transferred into helping their parents or grandparents when they go to the doctor. Because I know a lot of times my friend, they will go, the sisters and him, they'll kind of take turns, and they will interpret to the doctor as to what is actually going on with the family member that they're going to the doctor for. You know,
that's true. Lots of younger people do this. It's their karma.
But one thing I could say I love about the Russian and Ukrainian culture is your culture you're very close, in my opinion. You know, close as, you know, because a lot of times you married within the culture. You know, and even like a lot of times in the gym, I go to the gym, it seems like you guys are always together, opposed to like you can have like African Americans over there, or you can have like Hispanic speaking over there. We're scattered out everywhere. But you guys always tend to just, you know, stand on your own and talk and just, you know, and I think that's amazing to me.
I am happy to see enthusiasm in your eyes, but for me, that's not so very positive. You know why? Because for me, that's a sign of surviving.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's good to be close together, but you have to really live in United States of America.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
And the thing is, people get together because they're what? They're scared.
Wow.
And together we are stronger.
Yes.
Together it's safer.
Yeah.
It's more comfortable, right? And at least someone can understand me.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And it's interesting, if you speak perfect English, and you still link to Russian-speaking community as the only one who can understand you.
Yeah.
It's lots of insecurity, right?
I never looked at it that way.
But I do. Because you see, again, in former Soviet Union and post-Soviet countries, we learn how to survive. We were surviving every day. And what I see in our community, people come here, but the habit is still there. So they don't learn to live. They're still surviving. And they survive 5 years, 10 years, now it's 25 years, they're still surviving. For me, it's not healthy. And when I was looking to this, and I was thinking, I mean, I'm not talking about everybody, definitely. So everybody adapt differently, right? But in majority, what you see as a closeness, for me, that's a trauma.
Wow,
For me, that's a stress. That's a really thing that people cannot relax and start living with everybody else, because American society is multicultural.
Exactly.
You can be happy and cling with African American, Asians, and whoever, really, and be equally comfortable and happy. But with many people, it does not happen. Because they're still so insecure. And that's another mental health issue, right? Maybe not like on DSM-5, but people need some help, you know, just to kind of maybe boost their self-esteem and start be not be afraid of the American life and American system, but just embrace it and live here, because they're going to live here for the rest of their lives, right?
And you just put a new twist on that for me, because for me, being an African American, there's not a lot of unity within my culture. And so to see that, for me, you know, you look at like what's going on in Chicago now. I mean, most of the killings that's going on up there is among African American race, you know. And then so for me to see this unity and this closeness within the Russian or Ukrainian culture, it's like, wow, you know, why can't we be like that? Why can't we stop the killings? Why can't we, you know, just, you know, love one another and try to help one another? But what you're saying is, you know, they stick together because it's comfortable, you know, which makes a lot of sense to me, and that explains too why a lot of them don't marry outside of the race. You know, I was just talking to one of my Ukrainian friends, and he was telling me about how I guess somebody he knew that's Ukrainian or Russian, they're engaged to somebody of another culture. I say that, and you know, I guess the people in the church are like, wow, you know, and they looking at this guy as he come in with his fiancée as if he's like the plague or something. But that's just what they're used to.
Oh, you see, now you explain there is lots of hostility
Yeah.
in this closeness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And lots of judgment in
Yeah.
this closeness.
Yeah.
So it has good and bad sides,
Yeah.
right? It's good to survive together,
Yeah.
but also you have to play by the rules,
Yes, I understand that.
right? In
Yes.
a group, if you're there to be different again,
Yes. You're
yeah,
somewhat
so
of
you pay the price.
an outsider.
Because I saw people were isolated, but even their parents didn't approve, and even their parents were the first people who shunned them and, really disagree with
Yeah.
their choices, which
Yeah.
is very painful.
Yeah.
Right? Very painful.
I know when I first moved to Sacramento, I met my Ukrainian friend, in 2008. We just kind of met at the gym and we just kind of connected. And one of the things I found was strange was whenever we would kind of try to go hang out, outside the company of my place, he seemed a little bit nervous, and it was like, and so one day I asked him, I said, like, why do you act like that when we go in the community? And he told me, he said, there's not a lot of African Americans in Russia and Ukrainian. And he said, among our culture, he said, we're really close, and, a lot of them not, in other words, your kind is not always welcome within my culture, is what he said. And so I know his parents would always tell him, well, why don't you hang around some Russian Ukrainian? You're always with him and blah, 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 And so finally they realized that I was a really good friend to him. And so the mom started sending food over to the house. I said, well, you know what? You eat some first, and then I'll eat some. Because I'm like, all this stuff you're telling me, I didn't trust, that for her to send me food over to the house and stuff. So I thought that was, really interesting and stuff. But now I'm like, they call me his brother from another mother.
Yeah.
Because they've gotten close.
Yeah, now it's different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's much different now.
But it takes lots of time, right?
Yes, it does.
That's what's happening in the community, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about what you do, because I know you have an organization. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about your organization, what you do, and the services that you provide to the Russian-speaking community?
Well, Sacramento is my second hometown.
Okay.
And originally I'm from Kiev, Ukraine, and I came here with this in the beginning of when people start coming here as a religious refugee with my family. So, and since 1994, I started working for social field here, social work field. And I work for many American organizations in many different kind of social work, approaches and fields. I work for mental health, I work for people with disabilities, I work for children services, adult services, and whenever I work, everywhere I saw the huge gap between services available and Russian-speaking community. And so finally in 2000, what was it? Yeah, it was 2014. I decided to have an experiment. And also because being a social worker and I have my degree here and everything, so people were calling me all the time anyway. So, and especially because I write newspaper articles, so I was always answering questions and helping people just by my own. But then in 2014, I started an experiment, and I put the phone number in a newspaper, and I said, okay, this is Russian warm line. So if you have any questions in Russian, if you want any help, call. And I was thinking nobody will call me, but people start calling, and they're still calling and calling and calling.
Wow.
And it was so interesting to see how sometimes the problems are quite major, like domestic violence or mental health, or sometimes it's like housing dispute or something. And sometimes it just, they didn't know what to do with this letter they received. And I mean, interesting range of problems. And and I was doing what I usually was doing. I was assessing the needs and refer them to resources, American resources that are here in our city. And then this little thing grew into an organization.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so by helping Russian-speaking clients to get more services, I was thinking, why not to teach American professionals how to understand
Yes.
their Russian-speaking clients. And we are not talking about the language.
Yeah.
Because you know, when we think about other culture, we think about language first. Yeah. But language is not the main thing why people don't understand each other. Because you can ask interpreter, or I mean many ways to understand each other, right?
Yeah.
Besides the language. But the thing is, especially in mental health field, I think professionals have to understand that this is highly traumatized population.
Yes.
And that is why they act sometimes very inadequate,
Yeah.
maybe sometimes strange.
Yeah.
So if they keep it in mind,
Yeah.
so maybe they find more compassion inside themselves and ask more questions.
Yeah.
So and since 2014, I did over 20 trainings
Wow.
for different American agencies here in Sacramento
Wow.
County and Yolo County and Placer County.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love to do the training because we speak about things nobody speak about, and I can give perspective for like first-hand perspective because I work with many like clients and many Russian-speaking people, and I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what my agency does, my organization does. Basically, it's two parts.
Yeah.
One helping Russian-speaking clients to get services,
Yeah.
and another helping American English-speaking professionals to understand the
Yeah.
needs and the community better.
Yeah. So resource referrals and support and the warm line. So can people that are non-Russian speaking call and get help at the warm line from you guys?
Surprisingly, they do. And 211 refer quite a few.
Yeah.
Well, so I did the same. I just did it in English, just refer them to services that are available.
Yeah.
And just explain them more, maybe, you know, because I know the services, so I explain them more what to expect and what they can get from those services. Also, for me, it was very interesting to hear some people from Afghanistan.
Oh, wow.
They call us and they spoke Russian with us.
Oh, wow.
See, the Russian language is the language of communication for
Yes.
many countries
Yes.
and many people. Also, I had people from Mongolia, immigrants. They originally from Mongolia. They live here, and they call us and they spoke Russian with us.
Yeah.
And because all countries who were in the Soviet bloc back then, like Warsaw bloc,
Yeah.
so people had to learn Russian.
Yeah.
So that is why, let's say, like people from East Germany, they speak Russian,
Yeah.
many of them.
Wow.
And people from Afghanistan speak Russian, and from many Eastern European country, they do speak Russian.
Wow.
Yeah, so but I was kind of, wow, talking to this man from Afghanistan. I said, you speak Russian with me, why not? You have your own cultural center, why are you calling us? But that's the same issue. He wanted confidentiality.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing. When
Yes.
community is small and close,
Yes.
sometimes people don't want other people from your community to know about your problems.
Yeah. And there definitely is a lack of trust with the Russian and Ukrainian speaking culture. You know, and by right, I mean, I understand, you know, I know when I'm around, you know, some of my friends or their family, and they're speaking the language. Now, I've learned to pick up on a lot of it now. I'm getting better. Can't really speak it, but I can understand, because they go in and out with English. So with the Ukrainian and Russian language, so I'm able to pick up a little bit. But sometimes I'm sitting there like, okay, now what are they saying, you know? And I could just only imagine coming from, well, leaving America, going to Russia or Ukraine, and not understanding the language, and you know, so I can understand their frustration. You know, to me, I feel like his parents speak really good English. To them, they don't think their English is all that great, but I understand it. You know, so I can understand that frustration and their lack of trust as well.
Yeah, definitely. And also, let's speak about interpreters.
Okay.
Because you see, if I'm ashamed of my problems and I decide, okay, now I reveal it to you as my mental health professional, and now it's another person here,
Yes.
the third one, interpreter. So
Yeah.
do I want to reveal my problems? And maybe I know this interpreter, maybe I know his or her family,
Yes.
or you see,
Yeah.
that's very interesting, touchy subject.
Wow.
Yeah,
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Wow. So what other resources are available here for the Russian-speaking community as far as mental health goes?
As far as mental health, I would say there is no professional help. I mean, I would phrase it this. So if we're talking about cultural center that provides help, professional help, in Russian language, there is no such things.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, but there are many bilingual professionals.
Okay.
And they work for different agencies, and some have private practice.
Okay.
So we have MFT, we have PhDs, Russian-speaking. We have lots of Russian-speaking peer counselors in different organizations and mental health professionals. So what usually I do, I refer people to American agency when I know there is a Russian-speaking worker there.
Yeah, you've done that with us too. Yeah. So why? Because let me phrase it like this. It seems like a lot of the Russian and Ukrainian speaking community doesn't have like degrees, like actual like bachelor's and master's and PhD. I know some of them do, but also it's a vast majority of them have like certification. Like they'll go to school for like 6 or 7 months and get a certification, and you know. And why do you think that is? I just want your opinion.
That's a very interesting question, because you see, again, you have to remember that many came as religious refugees. Okay. So what does that mean? That means that in the Soviet Union, they were outcast. They were Christians. And if you remember we talk about mental health, psychiatric care. So if you're a Christian, if you disagree with government, because if you're believers, believe in God, you automatically disagree with the government.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. So and psychiatric care is for you to label you as a schizophrenic, sort of. Yeah. When people were kind of outcast, they had no ability, they had no way to get higher education. Very few of them did. And that is why many who still remain to be evangelical Christians here, or came as evangelical Christians, they came with maybe trade school, trading school education, or maybe like community college equal education, or maybe with high school diploma, because they had no chance to get higher education there. And for some people it became kind of a family tradition, so their kids never see parents go to college, so their kids just pick up this style and become more like trade labor jobs. But also there is a lots of people who are well educated, Russian speaking people here, because as I said, not everybody came as religious refugees. People came as spouses, relatives, green card holders. So it means that those people, many came, they have no affiliation with any religion. Many doesn't really matter, but many of them hold higher degree, and they come as doctors, they come as psychologists, they come as engineers, and many other high quality professions, but they also have the same challenges, right? The language and accommodation, how to live in this country. But especially doctors, we have many Russian clinics, so-called Russian clinics, when the doctors with degree from Russia or Ukraine or Soviet Union, they practice here medicine, and so people go to them because the doctors speak their own language. And also we have many people who get degree here already, so which is very good and positive, because American degree is totally different than a degree in any other country. And so they know the system, they know the way how to diagnose and how to refer people to services. Quite a few here in Sacramento now. We are more fortunate than 20 years ago.
I definitely agree with that, definitely. Well, I do know that, the Russian and Ukrainian speaking culture, from my experience, are very, very hard workers. Very hard, and they're very dedicated, very loyal to their job. And so and we have a staff that, we hired who's Ukrainian, and he speaks Russian Ukrainian, and he's definitely asset to our organization. So when we get all the calls, he handle all the Russian Ukrainian speaking calls. Even today we had a lady, I'm telling you that we had a lady call And I'm like, okay, Max, I got a Russian-speaking lady on the phone, and he came in and he did his thing, and and I said we got to refer to Tatiana, and so we gave him your information and stuff. So that's very helpful. And since you actually, because I think you referred Ksenia to us too, so you refer people to us, which is really, really good. How can other agencies outreach to the Russian and Ukrainian speaking culture?
There can be two ways, and actually, so they can do radio program. We have Russian radio in the area.
Okay. Nice.
So, and I believe for American agencies, radio is more efficient than a newspaper article or even advertisement in a newspaper.
Oh wow! Cool.
Because radio is like talking, and people when people hear you talk, they kind of trust building right there.
Yeah.
Building rapport. And so radio advertisement is very good.
Yeah.
They also can go to some events.
Yeah.
Cultural events and bring their material.
Okay.
Or maybe, so if they have any questions, they can always contact me. I can show other ways to outreach Russian-speaking community because we have lots of events. And now, because again, communities face so many problems, so many challenges, they're more open to listen to new information. They're more open to accept the help from American agency than it was before.
Yeah. And also I think it's good to have Russian, Ukrainian speaking staff members in your agency.
That's wonderful.
Too.
That's very good.
Because if you don't, you won't be able to successfully be able to provide services to them. First of all, there's going to be a language barrier, number one. Number two, there's going to be a lack of trust. So people tend to do well when they see their own kind, so
Absolutely,
to speak.
So, and definitely that would be good for any agency. If you really want to work with Russian-speaking clients, you need to hire at least one person who's competent with the culture and language.
Exactly.
That's true, because otherwise it would be very difficult.
Yes. So where do you see the Russian culture and Ukrainian culture here in Sacramento in like 5 or 10 years? Like, where do you see them? Do you see them being more open to the mental health services? Do you see them reaching out more? Like, what do you see in that aspect of it?
I think we all have to help them with that.
Okay.
Everybody, me and you and our listeners who are now more educated with the issue, because I really want to see our community to be more open.
Yes.
But the thing is, as we spoke in the beginning, that's a trauma and fear.
Okay.
See, that's what preserved them. That's what does not let them go, and be happy, like living fully in the United States. So in this term, I think education would be good, and with all our collective efforts, hopefully. But because I have big worry about our generation that grew up here.
Okay.
Big worry, because being between these two cultures, that's very traumatic and very, very difficult. What I see in young families now, these families are not everybody, but many are dysfunctional families. So the men, they try to cope with their symptoms using alcohol and drugs, and lots of domestic violence, and lots of other things. Lack of parenting skills in America, because they didn't see from their parents, because parents didn't know how to parent children in America if they come from different country. They have to learn it.
Yes.
So what I really hope, I would like to see, that would be positive changes, but it would not happen if we would not do anything and sit and wait for some changes.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you just enlightened me on during the time of our conversation is I would like to see the culture being more open and receptive to other cultures. As a learning tool, as a social, being able to socialize more. And not just depending upon their particular culture, but knowing that they can get services and, outside of the Russian and Ukrainian culture, and just build that level of trust with everybody else, because it does kind of limit you if you just kind of stick within your own culture, because I think everybody have a lot to give each other. You know things I don't know, and I may know things that you don't know. You know, and as an example of that, so far, me and you, we've worked really good together. The first time I met you at our organization, we just hit it off, you know, and we tend to work really, really good together. You know, we've met, and you've gave me a resource at, I think it was in West Sac, the older adult place for the older adults, so Russian speaking, so we was able to get daycare, me and Max was able, you know, so, you know, it's, you know, building those relationships so that you can better provide services to the community here in Sacramento. So, yeah. And so, well, Tatiana, we're running out of time. And that's it for today's Mental Health Matters. If you enjoyed our show, or if you have any questions about the show, if you want to request a DVD of the show, please call 916-366-4600. Thank you.
When I think of where I've been, the good times and the bad, on a scale of 1 to 10, either way I'm glad, 'cause I'm not alone. As I'm reaching for the phone, your voice is there, you really care, you're my comfort zone. Sometimes when I'm lost, crushed beneath the pain, though I can't afford the cost, I just smile and play the game. But there's a healing place where I cannot pretend. Your smiling face, your heart's embrace heals me again. So even when the storm is strong and I'm deaf to my own cry, I faintly hear a distant song, and I simply can't deny that I'm not alone. 10,000 times I've known my best bet is that first step for hope. Trying to stand tall, I'm haunted by the past. With my back against that wall, one thing is clear at last. The kind of love you show to me flows from an endless stream, with shores so wide it won't subside. My mind had never dreamed how I'm not alone. When I'm on my own, your gentle touch is much too much to let me roll. So even when the storm is strong and I'm deaf to my own cry, I faintly hear a distant song, and I simply can't deny